Here we have the Walkatron editor. In this tutorial, I'll go through the interface elements and I'll show you what they do. What you have here in these 17 buttons that we see strung across here are the time steps. Each Walkatron loop is divided into 16 different time steps. We see 17 here because 1 and 17 are considered the same. So if you click the 1:17 button, you'll see that we jump from time 0 to time 40. Since these time steps can be spread out over a different length of time based upon the speed, if I take the speed number here and I change this to 40, we'll notice that all these numbers here have changed, and you also notice that we now have an 80 frame loop. So speed 8 is the fastest that you can get this thing going. And we'll see here that we have an opportunity to put a parameter in each of the 16 time steps, and we have no time in between the time steps. If we change this number to 16, you'll see that we have each time step is skipping a number, like so. So if we run through the entire cycle of these 16 time steps, we're going to get one loop that contains, if I push the play button, both a right and a left step. You can click right on these time step buttons and go right to that time. So if I click on number 5, I go to frame 8, and so on. You can also go in here and press the step button and step through the buttons right here to go forwards and backwards. The scale, angle, speed, and spread are the same numbers that we'll see in the procedural walking system. These are here to emulate the possible settings that you could have in the procedural walking system so that you can see how your loop is going to be affected by those parameters. So let me load up a loop here and we can see what happens when I change some of these settings. Let's open up March B. And I'm going to hit the H button to hide all the helpers. And let's go ahead and press play. And you can see here our character is walking, and he's walking at a speed 16. I could change this to an 8, and the whole thing speeds up, and he's playing twice as fast. The same exact data. Change this to a 40, and he's playing the same animation but much slower. Let's put this at a 20. I usually use 20 as the default speed for creating most of my loops. Now you can also change the scale of the animation, so let's change this to 20, and you'll see that he's not making very much of a step. And we can also go back to 100, and I'm going to change the angle to 22 or 25, and let's go ahead and change this. Now it's hard to see from the side view, but if we were to look from the 3/4 view, and here I'll show you the cameras, we'll see if I turn on the grid, we'll see that he's actually turning. I can change to the side view. If I click again, I change to orthographic and to perspective. So hitting these twice will change from orthographic to perspective. So front in perspective and front in orthographic. 3/4 view and 3/4 view in perspective. Just like that. You're changing it just like that. And we also have orbit view. So the O means orbit, and this spinner right here is the orbit speed. So let me change the angle back to 0 and we'll play. And now I'm going to go into, we're in orbit mode here, so I'm going to change the speed of the orbit, and you'll see now that the camera is orbiting our character, so we can see him from all different angles and crank that up so he really starts to spin around. The way I usually use this is I turn it up a little bit just to get it in the right spot, and then I just right click and it'll stop the camera orbit like that. Now you notice that I had to keep pressing the play button, so we can actually put on autoplay so that every time we change a parameter it'll just automatically play. So I go in here and I change this to 45, and you'll see our character, that everything I do to it, it'll just automatically play. Turning the helpers off and on will speed up the playback dramatically, but having the helpers on here, you'll be able to see some of the paths that are being created by the objects in the rig. I'm actually going to have this default to always stay where you want it. Now, pressing the update button will update the animation in case you think it hasn't been updated. Scale changes scale, angle changes angle. Now, spread right here actually will change if we look at the front view. If I change spread, it's going to change the foot spread. Now, these 4 parameters here are not saved with the Walkatron loop. They are actually going to be input during the procedural walking system, and these can be changed per loop playback. So let's go ahead and load up another animation here that's simple. And AA blank, I have an AA in front of it so it shows up at the top of the menu. And if I put that to 0, we'll see these will be walking a tightrope. Now 100 spread on the foot spread will put the feet directly underneath the hip joint. So no matter how big your character is, if he has really wide hips, you'll see that the spread will move these feet out here automatically. So now let's input some data into this character. So first I'm going to go in and we'll do something to the hips for simplicity's sake. And let's go to the side view by hitting the S and hit the S again to get an orthographic view. So we've selected spine, and you can see that below here we have a bunch of parameters show up. For spine, these are all the rotational parameters for each spine element. And we have bend, side, spin, etc. And these are the same parameters that you'll see in the master skeleton control. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to time step 1, and if I hit this button it'll stop playback. And I'm going to bend his hips down, and once I let go it's going to start playing. Now because I put a key in time step 1, that key will also show up in time step 17 to ensure that the loop is seamless. If I didn't have any keys here, so if I delete this here, you'll see that it deletes here as well. This checkbox right here with the X in it is telling you that there is a keyframe in that data point for that time step. So if I right click, I'll clear that out to 0, and I turn this off, and you'll see it's there. Now if I go to time step 9 and input some data, you'll notice that it's also going to put a key in at the default value that is setting at time step 1 and 17, and this is to ensure that we have data on a track that shows up at 1 and 17 to ensure a seamless playback loop. So here I'll go and put some data in here. So now we see him rotating from 60 to minus 61 over the course of the animation. Time step 9 is the middle of the animation. So when you start to build a character animation, try and start putting your, if you're making a regular walking loop, try and put your data in at time steps 1 and 9 and see how that works. And you can start to shift them back and forth in time to kind of offset how they work. But it's best to start with 1 and 9. And then once you want to refine that, then go and start using 5, and you can put something in here. But the more data you put in there, you can certainly put in as much as you want, but the more information you put in there, if you put good information in there, it may look better. But it's best to kind of keep this as slim as possible as far as how much data you put in. Now there's a couple of buttons over here that are very helpful. Let me clear all this out. So I hit the delete all button. It's going to delete all the data in there and give you whatever value. This is in time step 1 as your default value. If I hit the loop 9 button, any data that I put in is also going to be mirrored, or it's also going to be copied into whatever time step is 9 away from that one. So as you see, I put something in at time step 1, it's going to show up at time step 9. If I put something in at time step 3, it's also going to show up at time step 11. So whatever's below this one, as you see here with loop 9 on, then it shows up there. And if I also delete that value, it'll also delete the looped value as well. If I hit the mirror value button and I go in here and I put something right there, you'll notice that the same value has been looped, or has been shifted over 9 as well, and it's also mirrored. So I have minus 25 here and 25 there. And same thing if I go here and put in 30, you'll notice it's minus 30 here. Now let's go ahead and do something with the arm. So I'm going to go here and look at our 3/4 view. I'll hit the right arm, and let's do the right arm swing. I'm going to turn these off for now. And let's say I want to make him kind of swing his arms, and I'll do this manually like this. And now look, he's swinging his arms, or swinging his arm. If I want to mirror what I'm doing over here onto this arm, it's very simple. So if I were to go in here and delete all these values here, and if I hit loop 9 and do this and hit mirror, with one spinner I've created 3 keys, the beginning, the middle, and the end, and I have a looping arm swing. Now what if I hit mirror bone? So I do this, and we'll see that now I've mirrored across the skeleton the data that I'm putting in to there. So hit these 3 buttons here. So let's clear all that out. And let me go to the left arm and clear that data out as well. So now I have no data in there, and I can do this from either side. So with one button, I've created all these keys for all those elements. Let's go to the elbow, and let's say, yeah, I want to do that, and look at that. So loop 9, mirror value, mirror bone, and mirror bone value will get you this symmetrical time shifting data input method. That's cool.